Kanka bu arada koku bırakmıyor gerçekten ya.
Mis.
Çok minik bir koku kalıyor ama onu da çözemedim ne kokusu.
Koku.
Bak şey yapmamız yok mu ya? Ben bir video üstünü izleyeceğim ya bu arkların.
Yok mu geldi ya?
Ark Raiders'ı ama kapatayım yoksa ölecek bilgisayar. Çıtır çıtır. Çıtır çıtır ses geliyor ben arka açınca. Ay ark dışında başka bir şey açınca arka açıkken. Oyunda şey yok mu oğlum? Oyundan çık. Hani
Nasıl oluyor lan öyle? Nasıl şiyordum o zamana kadar?
Alt F4 atıyordum hep.
Ara bakayım nasıl oluyor böyle bir şey.
Kontrolde olmaz, grafik sesli olmaz, klavye kolun olmaz. O cidden yok lan.
Şey yap, ana menüde escape'e bas.
Heh. Çık. Eyvallah.
Olmuş lan. Olmuş. Yok diyemezsiniz. Senin arka planın da benim masaüstümle aynı lan. Şeydeki.
Ben Google'da yapmak istedim onu ya.
Raiders.
Tix, Wasp, Hornet, Snitch. Ha şöyle ya.
Ah, şöyle be Dayko. Uf, ne atladı be.
And in this video, we're going to share exactly why. My name's Kodiak. When it comes to
Kodiak.
arcs, whether you're new to the game or an experienced
Ne
veteran,
yapacağım
you
ben
should
şimdi?
Bu eklenti çok güzel diye göre ben de kullanıyorum.
Şurası kurtarıyor beni.
sound intensifies and amplifies, painting an even larger target on your back. The sheer amount of times we've matched up with
Şey olayı da güzel yani. Durduruyorsun. Mesela spectacular. Olağanüstü görünmemiş. Muhteşem.
try to kill everything they see and fail spectacularly in the process is incredible. And guys, if you think we're full of just check out our playtime during the game's pre-launch testing, which has stretched back over a year. Bottom line, if you keep playing that way, aggroing everything, especially when you're undergeared, you're gonna die. Understanding aggro or aggression mechanics is vital, and it all starts with an enemy's field of vision.
Başta agro diyor, sonra aggression mechanic.
Snitches and spotters have a blue-colored eye and scanner that actively sweeps the area in front of them in a cone. They also have relatively predictable patrol patterns if you allow yourself the time to observe them before making any hasty moves. Always assume enemies that are around 100 to 150 meters away can detect you, and be aware that this applies even if you're on a different vertical plane. As long as you're outside that detection cone and not actively making sounds either from sprinting, breaching locked items, or firing your weapons, moving quietly can and will help you avoid 99% of all unnecessary arc encounters. If an arc detects a nearby sound, or you're showing just a little too much leg from behind that piece of cover, they'll become alerted, and their scanners will turn from blue to yellow. At that point, they'll break their patrol path and move towards the disturbance, attempting to suss out what's going on. As long as you don't panic, remain quiet, and use cover to mask your escape, it'll arrive at your previous location none the wiser, and after a short period of time go back to patrolling. Keep in mind that an alerted
Ferit kamerasını nereye koyuyordu Ark Raiders
players
yayınlarında?
good enough to recognize the
Sol üstte
behavior,
miydi?
but so long as that sensor doesn't switch to
Ortamsı.
and you're
Sol
still
ortamsı.
moving slowly,
Hmm.
neither the bot or enemy teams have gained much info beyond that. When a bot is red or already engaged, enemy players will have all the info they need to either push your position because you're distracted or set up a nearby trap attempting to catch you off guard. At this point, you should strongly consider dealing with the threat as quickly as possible, then altering your planned route, because more than likely, a team is lying in wait. 9 times out of 10, this will keep your team from being ambushed by other players. The other part of the equation outside of knowing arc weak points is understanding how the different ammo types perform against these enemies. Light ammo is extremely effective at close to medium range against players, especially when their shields have already been removed. However, against arcs, light ammo is extremely ineffective. Sure, you'll be able to kill a few ticks, blow up a couple pops, and maybe tackle the occasional wasp or hornet if you know where to aim, but if coming into matches with only light ammo, you should avoid picking fights with enemies you stand no chance against, especially if you're rocking a free loadout with limited ammunition. If you do find yourself face to face with easier enemies, pull out your melee tool and take them down. It's much quieter and you don't waste valuable ammunition. Medium ammo is good all around, not particularly effective against anything, but also not ineffective either. It'll deal good damage to both players and arcs. Finally, there's heavy ammo, which can quickly break player shields and punch through the armor of arc enemies. Using heavy ammo, you'll be able to break the armor of most low-tier enemies with one
Bak şimdi bak.
spot. And on the higher tier arcs, you'll be able to remove their armor plating, protecting their softer interior components. In our opinion, everyone should always be running at least one heavy
Çocuk bambaşka bir şey.
weapon in that other
Bambaşka.
slot with a weapon that utilizes
Nasıl yaptığımı söyleyeyim mi?
ammunition. If you don't know what gun matches
Nasıl?
your preferred playstyle,
Zaten
never
açıktı.
fear, because we have a complete breakdown of each weapon in the game.
Bizi kandırıyorlar bu.
Dölendirici.
Even though they aren't difficult to kill, we have to talk about ticks. These little buggers can crawl on any surface and often lie in wait trying to ambush unsuspecting players.
Kirvem yani LoL oynamıyorsun.
Their spawn locations on each map.
Şunu yapabilirsin aslında
Already, you just need to listen
diye
to the
düşünüyorum.
sound cue as you enter their detection radius.
Kirvem zor kirvem.
This is your cue
Kirvem,
to
kirvem,
turn, shoot a
kirvem.
single bullet of any caliber, or break out your melee tool and prepare to dodge the incoming face-hugging
Ananı
attack.
kıtlatmadım
Once you do
şimdi.
that, it'll skitter around once or twice before coming to a stop, preparing to leap again. This is your chance to melee it or blast it into a smoldering pile of alloy. Most of the time, we recommend the melee approach just to avoid drawing even more attention to yourself, because when a tick dies, they explode. Looting these will often award tick pods and arc alloy. Wasps are deceptively strong enemies if not dealt with quickly due to the sheer damage output of their machine guns. Once spotted, it'll attempt to get a good, reliable angle on you. It'll begin its target lock, and after a short delay, will release enough small arms fire to completely remove a raider's shield and deal a sizable amount of damage.
Mekanda böyle doldurmazlar.
Like I said, deceptively strong. The good thing is, they are easy to kill if you know what you're doing. Simply target any of its thrusters with your weapons, and so long as you knock off 2 of them, it won't be able to sustain itself in the air, causing it to eventually crash into the ground and explode. If you're shooting the body, you won't deal nearly as much damage and could realistically waste an entire free loadout worth of ammo if you're not hitting the weak point. If you're using heavy ammo, you can quickly break the thrusters, and this certainly matters if faced with a swarm of these pesky enemies. Looting a wasp will often yield arc alloy, wasp drivers, and light ammo. Hornets are the heavily armored big brother of the wasp, capable of taking an absolute beating from all ammo types if struck from the front. These relentless pursuers charge a fast-moving taser projectile that will stun and deal significant damage to the player hit with an attack. They have 4 thrusters, just like the wasps, but the 2 in the front, as well as the body, are encased in armor, allowing these enemies to shrug off most attacks from light and medium ammo. The key to taking down a Hornet, regardless of the ammo type you're using, is to take out both rear thrusters that are completely unarmored. These thrusters go down just as fast as the wasps, requiring very little ammo to break, and doing so will send the Hornet plummeting to the ground. These enemies will often contain arc alloy, arc power cells, medium ammo, and Hornet drivers, which can be used just like a showstopper grenade to stun enemy arc units. Once you know how to effectively defeat Hornets, it's almost always worth taking them out for their valuable loot. If there's one enemy in
Siktir, bende bunun blueprint'i vardı, ölmüştüm.
It's the Snitch,
Kötü
another
oldu.
drone type enemy that doesn't have any offensive.
Ne anlatıyor bu sabahtan?
Instead, these act as ARC's recon
Right
units,
işte.
actively scanning in a full 360-degree radius beneath them. Once they
Ama oyunda bir
detect
sürü
the player,
silah
they'll
var. Ben
be
çok
alerted
kısıtlı
for a
silahlarla
short
oynuyorum
duration
ya.
before sending up a beacon to call for arc reinforcements. This can quickly turn a situation into a full-blown problem once wasps and hornets get called in en masse. Luckily, these aren't difficult to kill, since the 3 white panels that surround the core of the snitch are actually unarmored thrusters. You can break these easily with any ammo type, but obviously the heavier the better, as you want to quickly dispatch the snitch before it can get off its beacon. Looting a
İki
snitch
attı
will
be.
almost always result in arc alloy, an arc power cell, and a snitch scanner, which can be used like a grenade to deploy the snitch's beacon on enemy players. Used at the right time, this can massively disrupt an enemy team, so don't count out stocking up on these items. If you ever hear this sound, and you aren't prepared to dive out of the way, say goodbye to your entire shield and a massive chunk of your health. Pops are suicide
vuruyor
death
ya.
balls, whose sole purpose is to detect players, then rush towards them and explode. They aren't hard to kill, and even light ammo will take them out in 1 to 2 shots, but the key is to blow them up before they can blow you up. Even if a pop is right on top of you, if you shoot or melee it before it gets off its detonation, you won't take a lick of damage, and that knowledge could save you in a pinch if they catch you off guard. Loot-wise, you can expect to find arc alloy, an arc power cell, a pop trigger, and even crude explosives, so keep that in mind if you're working on anything explosive related back at your workshop. If you've ever been set on fire in Arc Raiders, I'm willing to bet it was most likely the result of a fireball. If left unchecked, their dual flamethrowers can quickly deplete your shields and health in just a matter of seconds. These enemies shrug off most light ammo, really only stopping in their ball form when hit with medium and heavy ammo. If you're looking to take them down, regardless of what ammo type or weapon you're using, hitting them right as they open their side panels to reveal their flamethrowers will allow you to dispatch them quickly. Just be warned, you don't want to be too close to these when they die, because they'll always spawn an AoE of fire, which can deal a sudden spike of damage.
Oğlum ya Mert keşke birlikte oynayabilsek şunu ya.
Power cell and the fireball burner, a quick use item that functions like a smaller AoE blaze grenade, which is a
Yalnızlık fena vurdu.
players out of cover and into your team's line of sight.
Yalnızlık
If you've ever
31'e.
seen the arc enemy in the shape of a giant armored ball that seems more scared of you than you are of it, that's an arc surveyor. These enemies try to avoid raiders as best they can, stopping occasionally when undisturbed to extend an antenna and transmit signals, which is actually the best time to lob something like a heavy fuse grenade their direction, usually deleting them in one shot. If disturbed, they'll roll up and do their best to speed away like a loot goblin. However, if cornered and left with no other option, they'll rev up like Sonic the Hedgehog and launch themselves at your team, dealing significant damage if they hit anyone before running away. You're going to need medium or preferably heavy ammo to take these out. Breaking their armor will reveal a more lightly armored core, but keep in mind that each piece you break off is a lootable object. These small debris pieces will often contain arc alloy, arc motion cores, and advanced arc power cells.
Niye simgesini koymadın?
Pieces will also commonly contain arc circuitry, sensors, and surveyor vaults. These enemies are almost always worth cracking for their components, so keep an eye out for Topside's most elusive ball. Arc Raiders' pure nightmare fuel, the Leaper, is a heavily armored, jumping spider-like bot from hell. Once they've detected a raider, they'll leap insane distances, attempting to land on their target, inflicting massive damage and knocking the player down. If that wasn't enough, they'll also send out a large kinetic energy pulse around them right after leaping that will finish off any raider unlucky enough to be hit by both attacks. If you aggro one of these, you best be prepared for a fight or have a structure nearby to escape into. To deal with them, you have 2 options. The first is to either toss a showstopper grenade or hornet driver at them, temporarily stunning the enemy in place, allowing you to pump rounds into its eye and leg joint. This also sets up
Kaçırdım burayı.
structure nearby to escape into. To deal with them, you have to push off any raider unlucky enough to be hit by both. They'll leap in ball. Arc Raiders' pure nightmare fuel, the Leaper, is a heavily armored, jumping spider-like bot from hell. Once they've detected a raider, they'll leap insane distances, attempting to land on their target, inflicting massive damage and knocking the player down. If that wasn't enough, they'll also send out a large kinetic
Yeni Subway Surfer oyunu geliyor.
right after leaving
Wow.
that will finish off any raider unlucky enough to be hit by both attacks. If you aggro one of these, you best be prepared for a fight or have a structure nearby to escape into. To deal with them, you have 2 options. The first is to either toss a showstopper grenade or hornet driver at them, temporarily stunning the enemy in place, allowing you to pump rounds into its eye and leg joint. This also sets up the opportunity to land something like a heavy fuse grenade near its core to quickly destroy the armor. The second and much more dangerous option is to simply come with medium or ideally heavy ammunition to hit those same weak spots, all while avoiding its attacks. If you do successfully take a leaper down, each of its leg joints in addition to the core become lootable. In the legs, you'll often find arc alloy, arc performance steel, advanced arc power cells, and mechanical components. The main core can contain all of that in addition to arc flex rubber and explosive compound. All pieces have a chance of containing the Leaper Pulse unit, with the main core having a consistently higher chance. This item isn't just for crafting. Like other unique arc components, this one can be thrown, spawning the massive AoE kinetic pulse on unsuspecting raiders, dealing enough damage to break a blue shield and chunk their health. Leapers are tanky to fight, but if you have yourself a wolf pack grenade, these can also make short work of one of the more deadly enemies in the game. Thrown, spawning the massive AoE kinetic pulse on unsuspecting raiders, dealing enough damage to break a blue shield.
Mert, benim ekrana bakıyor musun?
Leapers are tanky to fight.
Bak.
This higher chance.
Şu büyük vardı ya 4 bacak zıplayan. Bundan bir şey düşüyor. Bunu paraya satabiliyorsun. 5K para galiba. Ya da böyle atıp bomba gibi patlatabiliyorsun.
Enteresan.
These can also make short work of one of the more deadly enemies in the game. If you ever hear sustained Gatling fire, followed by the sound of raider flares popping off, you've stumbled near a bastion. These are super heavily armored arc units with a massive forward-mounted minigun that will absolutely shred through raiders in seconds if caught off guard. When a bastion does catch you in the open, you're as good as dead. Fully intact, they're able to rotate quickly enough and will emit loud sounds, almost guaranteeing to attract other players in arcs to your location. To take them down, aim for the yellow joints on its legs, as well as the yellow canister weak spot on its back. This will deal the most damage, often crippling the bastion in the process. We strongly recommend using heavy ammo since it'll punch through their armored exteriors quicker, costing you less ammo in the process. If you can successfully remove 3 of the bastion's legs, it'll have a much harder time walking or turning, allowing you to reliably get behind it and damage that critical spot, which eventually reveals the core where it takes the most damage. Like other elite enemies, showstoppers and hornet drivers are your best friend for disabling the bastion, allowing you to crack a few joints risk-free. When you successfully take down a bastion, every leg joint in addition to the main body becomes lootable, and man are these things loaded. The legs will often contain arc alloy, arc power cells, arc motion cores, mechanical components, and arc circuitry, while the main body debris can also contain advanced arc power cells, medium gun parts, and the elusive
Lan loot'a bak ya.
Seriously, these are always worth taking down, and with practice comes efficiency, which will cut down on the players that will inevitably flock to your location. Raining down death with deadly precision, the Bombardier and its faithful spotter drones are a menace on any map. As the name suggests, the Bombardier is an artillery-focused unit that looks and moves similar to the Bastion, albeit with significantly less armor than its minigun-wielding counterpart. The spotter drones, which look like smaller, more nimble snitches, fly high above the area, spotting raiders and painting targets for the Bombardier to attack with insane precision. You can and should eliminate these every time they're deployed, which happens multiple times throughout the fight. Stay nimble, and whatever you do, don't stop moving when fighting a Bombardier, especially when its spotters are active. And you can forget about cheesing this enemy up close, because if the Bombardier detects a raider even remotely close by, it'll emit a high damage kinetic pulse in a large AoE, similar but much bigger to the Leapers. Surprisingly, the Bombardier is a lightly armored enemy, so you'll want to come to the fight with weapons that fire medium or heavy ammunition, and go after the typical arc weak spots, the leg joints and the crit spot on its rear. If you just so happen to have an epic hole cracker at your disposal, a couple well-placed shots can take it down in record time.
Arkaları bombayla halledeceğim hepsini ya.
Ben şeyi yeni öğrendim bu arada. Zırha fazla vurduğunu biliyordum da light ete fazla vuruyormuş light ammo silahları. Ortayla da ağır işte medium ve heavy, onlar da zırhlara fazla vuruyormuş.
Yani bu zırh dediğin insan zırhı ve robot zırhı olarak ikiye mi ayrılıyor?
Evet.
the valuable
Ben önce
holds.
light, heavy ammo ile zırhı indireceğim.
Aynen, ondan sonra
light
light'la
ammo ile-
gireceksin.
O şey ki.
Yani oyun başı yapabileceğin şey şu: bir tane ferro ile vuracaksın. Ondan sonra light silaha geçeceksin. Ya da yanında bir çıngırak tutacaksın.
Of, şu bomba çok iyi ya. Bu bomba mükemmel abi. Onu insan atamıyoruz ama galiba değil mi?
EMP olan mı?
Yok, havada bombalar atıyor ya.
Atabiliyorsun da dodge'lar yani.
Their weakness lies in their armored engines, meaning heavy
Nasıl doyacak ya? 1000 tane ben mermi bomba
If you
gidiyor.
successfully break off 2 of these, it'll fall to the ground, taking damage while continually trying to fire rockets, ultimately killing itself. While you can use cover and flank away at it with heavy weapons, there are 2 other options.
Now you see me, now you don't.
A showstopper grenade or hornet driver, disabling it and knocking it out of the sky temporarily.
Abi evet ya, şu EMP'ler çok OP.
The fall alone can deal significant damage, and
Silah ne lan?
once you
Renegade
take
diyor.
shots
İyiymiş
with those
bu.
front engines, it'll explode in no
One shot,
The second
one
option
kill.
is to use 1 or 2
One
dual
come
attacks.
shot, one kill.
Throwing these into the air near the Rocketeer will cause them to detonate.
Nasıl yani?
Geliyormuş.
Flurry of
Öyle
Üf.
öyle, sen rahat ol.
Jaina
All
versus
hit the
Gul'dan.
Rocketeer, it's close to an instant kill. So if you're specifically hunting Rocketeer loot, consider bringing a few of these to the fight. Instant kill will pepper the nearest arc unit. If these all hit the Rocketeer, it's
Lan bu
close to
bende
an
açık.
instant kill. So if you're specifically hunting Rocketeer loot, consider bringing a few of these to the fight. In terms of loot, all the Rocketeer parts are lootable, with the engines often containing arc alloy, arc power cells, advanced arc power cells, and motion cores. The main body can have all that in addition to arc circuitry, heavy gun parts, and the elusive Rocketeer drivers used for crafting and upgrading. Come prepared to fight this enemy because it is always prepared to fight back. The largest and arguably most deadly enemy in Arc Raiders, at least for now, is the Queen, which to our knowledge only shows up when the Harvester map event is active. If you're looking for a guide on how to complete the event easily, we have a handy video already up on the channel. If you plan on actually fighting the Queen, you're going to need to come prepared and have a very intentional plan where and how you fight it. You'll also want to strongly consider enlisting the help of other raiders on the map, which is easier said than done, I know. The Queen is the most heavily armored arc in the game, and because of this, using anything less than heavy ammo weapons
Dalganaz ne oldu?
is just a waste of resources. Sniper rifles like the
Dalga.
Dalga can be effective, but only when
Dalgan mı var lan senin?
at a very specific time during the fight.
Ya bu oyunda
To our knowledge, the Queen has 2
komple sniperları kaldırsınlar ya.
The first
Başlasın.
requires you to use heavy ammunition or explosives to break the armor off her legs, exposing yellow critical
Battle
points
Royale
and
sniper
targeted
kaldırmak
increased damage,
üzücü olur.
essentially
Battle Royale değil ki bu.
entirely. The second
Battle
use
Royale
lies
bilmiyorum.
on the top of her head
Bu
and
Battle Royale değil
visible
kardeş.
from higher elevations.
Tamam
She
kanka,
charges up with a
dediğinde.
laser beam, and for a short time after firing it, this will be exposed. Outside of hitting those weak spots, using heavy fuse grenades and snap blast grenades to detonate on her main hull will deal significant damage. You will need a metric ton of these grenades, but it is an option. In terms of where to fight her,
Peki Battle Royale ise niye oyunun sayfasında Battle Royale yazmıyor?
Queen will periodically fire
Dedim ya,
off
tamam,
barrage
senin
missiles that
dediğinden
will
diye.
continuously try to land at your position, detonating after a
Ben
short
pek inanıyormuşsun gibi bir cümle değil ama.
fire. If you find a location where you can
Yarra.
avoid the barrage, avoid the laser beam of death, and avoid her
Aksi
straight up
olsa aksini
secondary,
söylerdik kardeş.
all you need to do is have enough resources to survive
Kardeş mi?
while
Ben
dealing
senin
enough
abinim
damage
lan.
to take her down. If you're successful, it will fall, and it'll turn into a massive
Yaş kartı oynandı.
before the PvP
kartı
fight
oynanacak.
over the massively valuable loot sheet.
Bazen bizim 25 tayfa var şimdi böyle.
Nearly every arc
20'li 22'li yaşlarda ya onlar.
in addition to
Hı
advanced
hı.
electrical and
Çok sıkılıyorum arada. Kes lan sesini. Yapıyorum böyle amına.
rare Queen reactor. You'll
Ya
notice
Mert,
it's
çocukla çocuk olma ya.
equalizer for use
Yok oğlum, çocukla çocuk olmuyor. Çocukla büyük oluyor işte. O sıra
Buyuk.
kendi kartımı oynama hakkım doğuyor.
Introduced as part of the Northline update, the
Lan siz 2002 Dünya Kupası'nı hatırlıyor musunuz? Asas.
first released on Dam Battle
Onu ben şey yapmıştım ya. İlk mezun oldum, işe başladım okulda abi. Öğrencilerime yapıyordum onu. Öğrencilerim 2003'lüydü.
Dur ben bir daha yapayım ya. Bir yere maçe girdiğimde bir daha yapayım o espriyi.
Abi bizim hemşirelerden birisi şöyle video yapmış. Bak düşünsene, şu kızla manita olsan sürekli dışarı çıktığında ve salak salak şöyle videolarını çekeceksin kızın ya.
Evet ya.
Hep böyle şeyler
Ya.
paylaşıyor. Bir de bak
Bazen diyorum ki umarım sevgilim ne bileyim
şurada pantolondan
beyinsiz olur.
camel toe belli, tamam mı? En az 10 kilosu var.
En az 10
Kamento.
kilosu
Kamento
var.
neydi lan?
Böyle pantolondan tight'tan belli olan amcık.
Ha, o muydu lan o?
Ee,
Pıttık yani.
aynen.
Pıttığın
Tık.
İngilizce.
Benim bugün bir hasta vardı, ismi Monik, tamam mı? Ne zaman Monik desem
Geliyorum hemen.
Gezip mi geldi?
aynen.